What is popping, Mad Attackers? Welcome back to another pod session as a greater part of the In Your Ears with Matt Ross pod session, audio content, all the audio content I put out. I want to start this off with gratitude by saying a big thank you to every single one of you who's taking the time to watch or listen to this. I really do appreciate it. I put out on one of my Instagram posts, Facebook posts, and Twitter posts asking you guys, the Mad Attackers, what you would like me to do a pod session on. What topic would have relevance? And it's with that point in mind that I want to give a big shout out to Giselle, who suggested that I speak on working with brands today. The reason why I put that out is because there is very little point in me doing pod sessions, podcasts, whatever the fuck you want to call these, on topics that have no relevance to you guys. So by me asking you, damn, that was good coffee. If you hate slurping, I'm sorry about that. By me asking you, I can guarantee that you guys will find value in the topic because, well, you've told me. So today we're going to be discussing working with brands. To give you an overall idea of everything we're going to be speaking about, we're going to be talking about the ups and downs, choosing which brands to work with, what one needs to take into account when working with different brands, or when we're approached by different brands, or when approaching different brands ourselves, and then what the benefits and downfalls are potentially with working with brands. I do want to put this in here. I think it was my previous pod session where I spoke on how to make money on Instagram, and I do cover some of the topics of working with brands there. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check that out. I think it's called Making Money on Instagram, and it's live on literally all my podcast streaming apps, so Breaker, Radio Public, Anchor, SoundCloud, and then of course the video versions are available on YouTube and also on Facebook. So be sure to check that out. I think that there's a lot of value on there, and from the response we got on those, you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, take a look at that. All right, we're gonna hop in straight onto the ups and the downs of working with brands. It's kind of going to be all over the place because it's as I'm thinking of it. I will talk on the different topics. Look, working with brands can be amazing, and I feel that every brand you work with should be an extension of your personality or your own core brand as it exists natively, if that makes sense. So I can speak on this and I can say this with confidence because I've worked with a few brands, but I've also declined working with more brands than brands that I've worked with. So to give you a list, some of the brands that I have worked with were Gemini Handcrafts. I'm not paid to say this or include this part in the podcast about them, but I'm just doing it to give you context, sorry. So one of them is called Gemini Handcrafts. It's run by a single guy called Lubabalo, and he, or Babs is what he calls himself, and he's basically, he works with the leather products and cord, and he makes the most gorgeous wallets. He also does some jewelry which he outsources, but he does the design work for that. And I love that because it's artisan, it's based on craftsmanship, and the products are incredibly and impeccably made. They're literally, I don't have the wallet with me, but the wallet I got many years ago, and it still looks brand new even though I've used it every single day. And so when I considered working with him, it fitted in line with my aesthetic, which is long-term over short-term. Well-produced things, whatever that happens to be, whether it's producing an image on Instagram or whether it's producing, in his case, a wallet, that there's that element of craftsmanship, so I align with that, so it makes sense to do that. And then you got Mia Merino. I'm wearing their watch currently. This is their classic rose gold timepiece. They, are all about men's fashion, sartorial looks, but at a price that kind of anybody and everybody can afford. So it's making good fashion, classic fashion, accessible to the masses, which I appreciate. And so I partnered with them because I thought that was a good fit. I've also had companies who, and for those of you that know me on Instagram or know my tweets or something like that, you know that I have abs, you know that I'm slender built and I'm toned or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And so I could go and do a lot of swimwear stuff. So the swimwear brand approached me, and I could have shot with their shorts and created content around that, but I didn't feel like it was the right fit. Even though aesthetically I could have done it, I didn't feel like it was the right fit, and so I declined them. And so I think in terms of the ups and the downs of it is you need to, I'm kind of all over the place with this. So whatever, the point is you need to be able to look and see what the brand, what they're selling, what they're promoting, what they're talking about, what their core values and things are, and then see if that aligns with yourself as an individual or as your brand. And if they overlap or if they align, then it's a good partnership to take on. Another way you can also go and approach this, I'm actually, you guys don't know this yet because it hasn't happened yet, but See, if a coffee brand would approach me, I would hella work with them depending on how good the coffee is. Any coffee brands want to partner? Let me know. Currently, there is a dairy product that the marketing team reached out to me via email, and they are sending over some of their products so I can try it out and see if I want to partner with them. And so that's a nice little tip, is maybe if you're unsure of the product itself, you can request, say, hey, look, I am interested, like I am interested in this dairy product. Can you maybe send me a sample? Can you send me like a tester so I can try it out and see if us partnering together would make sense? And that's something that it's a nice little tip that I'll throw into this pod session that might benefit one of you guys. Okay, so we've covered choosing a brand. Also, an important point is don't ever feel bad about declining a brand. You shouldn't, and I know that it's exciting, especially if you're just starting up in the advertising influencer space, that when you get an offer from a brand, it's exciting because there might be payment involved, free clothes, free product, whatever it happens to be, a free experience, and that can become enticing and quite alluring or appealing. But just remember that it needs to be able to align with what your core brand is. Otherwise, you're going to become like a product whore or promotional whore, and you're promoting everything that comes your way, and your audience is going to get exhausted, or they'll feel like it's too saturated with promotions in the content in your value, in your core system, and that's not going to be good long term for you in terms of your audience respecting you and kind of knowing what you stand for if you're promoting every damn product that comes your way. So saying no is okay, and saying yes to the correct brands is even better. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, what to take into account when approaching brands. Once again, it goes back to the same thing. Does it align with you? Another point of caution, I've put this in a few videos, but I'll put it back in here again because obviously there's a demand to know this, is the brands that you are wanting to approach to go and work with, they need to be brands, once again, that align with you, and not a brand that you have romanticized because somebody you idealize has worked with them in the past. So for example, if I see some big American, I'm just using America as an example because they are on top of the food chain in terms of influence marketing, etc., etc. It could happen in any country, so I'm not discrediting the rest of the world. But let's say there's this huge American influencer and they are rocking Gucci slippers. I know I've used this example a few times. And you see them and you're like, flip, I wish that I was that person, or I wish I was achieving what that person was achieving. They're wearing Gucci slippers, therefore I need to promote Gucci because then I will have their level of success. But when you actually wear Gucci slippers, they hurt your feet, they're uncomfortable, and maybe you don't like the aesthetic of them. So why the fuck are you wanting to partner with it? Simply just because you're romanticizing another individual. And so I think as a word of caution, or heed this as a word of caution, is partner with a brand that matches you, not with someone you romanticize. And that's a very, very, very important point, because a lot of us are exposed or influenceable by somebody else, and that's not a bad thing necessarily to be influenced, but I just think you need to be able to have your I don't know, metaphorical fucking force field around yourself so you can let in what actually matters and what doesn't. Some of the benefits of brands or working with brands, hell man, the money is the biggest thing. That's the first thing that like would pop up into anybody's head. That's the major advantage of working with brands, is that you will be paid for it. And I say that it's the biggest thing, or it's the most important thing, because from my standpoint, I've already developed my brand. I've developed the Mad Attack pack. I've developed the community that I have. And so if I am going to consider another brand, right, the only, or the first, or the most major, I don't want to say this in an incorrect way, but the major thing, because I'm set with my brand already, my brand exists, it's powerful, it's strong, you guys are involved in the content, there needs to be a monetary upside for it, or it needs to be something that I deeply, deeply want, like a travel experience. Otherwise, I don't really need them in my life, if that makes sense, because my brand is so strong already. And so when a brand, and this is where the brands that I have worked with, the reasons why I've worked with them is, one, because there's monetary compensation, and two, is that their brands align with me and I like the products and I support what they stand for. And then you get this beautiful marriage between my brand and their brand, or your brand and the brands you want to work with. And so I think that would be the first thing that comes to mind, is it's the monetary thing. As an influencer, you need to make a living, and whether you're doing that through AdSense platforms like YouTube, or whether you're doing that through brand deals or whatever, you need to make it somehow. And so I think that's one of the biggest advantages and one of the first things that is taken into account. But also on the same thing, I do, and that's why I made this point, is do not get caught in the hype of only doing something for the payment when it doesn't align. And so I hope that makes sense. I'm not saying that I'm a money whore. I'm just saying that for me to work with another brand, there needs to be monetary incentive, or it needs to be something that I deeply value, like I give a shit about something, a cause, or it's an experience, or it's involved with something that I'm passionate about. Like for example, I do charge talks. Like when I've done my workshops, I charge ticket prices. But if a school messaged me, like a normal high school, primary school, and they said, hey, can you please come and talk to us, our grade 10 learners, I would do that for free, because to me there's value in speaking to those people and doing my best or everything within my power to try and inspire and motivate them. So I hope I'm making sense. I'm not saying that I'm a money whore, but I think you guys get it. You guys are smart. So that would be the major benefit of it. The other thing is, by partnering, it's like a marriage, for example, is if you are partnering with a brand, your strengths and their strengths should accentuate one another. So, for example, I like fashion. I enjoy your classic fashion. And so when I partnered with Mio Merino, the pieces that I chose, the shoes, the watches, the scarves, those accentuated my sense of fashion, my style sense. And so it's the same thing like a positive marriage. You guys should both bring out the best in one another. And because I like their pieces, I shot, and I say this with confidence because you guys have let me know, I shot dope ass fucking content for them. I only know that because you guys told me that it was dope and you enjoyed it, and you guys are the decision makers as to whether or not the content is good or not me. And that's another important point for you influencers, is you don't get to decide if your content is good. Your audience and the marketplace gets to decide if your content is good or bad. But I shot dope content, they received dope content, which then helped promote their products, and that then allowed their audience to see what the products would look like in a natural lifestyle situation of somebody wearing them or using them, etc., etc. And so I think that that's a major benefit, is it should accentuate one another, and it should help to catalyze both of your interests, whatever that is that you're working towards. We have actually covered everything already in this topic, but yeah, I would just say approach, to kind of round this off, I would say just approach working with brands for caution. Actually, let me speak about messaging brands. I do cover this. Where's my book? I wrote a book about being a successful micro influencer on Instagram. It's available on Amazon. If you are interested, just DM me, or just find the link online. Search how to be a successful micro influencer on Instagram and my name, Matt Ross, and then you'll find it from there. But one of the topics I do speak on there is working with brands. And so I think if you are going to pitch to them, you need to remember, in terms of you contacting a brand in order to work with them, so you're not waiting for brands to contact you, is when you message them, remember that if it's a biggish brand, or even if it's a small brand, they're going to get a whole bunch of people asking them for stuff for nothing. They don't want to give any value. These people don't want to give any values, which is fucking stupid in my mind. Because if you put yourself in their shoes, imagine if a brand said to you, hey, buy our product, take some cool content of it, post our content, and we're going to do fuck all to help you. We just want you to promote our content for free. Makes no sense. And so the same thing goes for when you're contacting a brand yourself. What you need to do is you need to keep in mind that you need to add value to that brand. So when I message them, I'd say something along the lines of, for example, the hat I'm wearing, Simon & Mary hat. I love Simon & Mary. I love their products. A really, really cool hats. So if I was messaging them to partner with them, I'd say, hey, what's up, Simon & Mary team? It is, if I'm sending them an email or a DM on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. What's up, Simon & Mary team? I am a massive fan of your clothing. I own a couple of your pieces. I love the craftsmanship behind your products. I think it's really well made. I love the history and that you're a local brand to South Africa. I really respect and support that. I'm an influencer. I have this many followers. My audience are fashion and travel enthusiasts. That's what they enjoy. And I think that if we work together with your product being exposed in my content to my audience, that it will not only develop your market to make sales on your hats, etc., etc., but also you would have cool content, dope content, that you could share to your followers, which would in turn help your social media presence and in turn drive more traffic to your sales page or your website, your checkout, whatever it happens to be. Would this be something you're interested in? Maybe send them your rates, etc., etc. And so I hope that makes sense. Is you need to, leading on also a bit further from there, you could say something along the lines of like, because you want to add value from the step one, is you would say something along the lines of, I would love to create some dope content and feature that content on my feed so that my audience are exposed to your brand, adding value. And you'd also be able to use that content on your feed to expose your audience to a more cool content about your product. So immediately you want to add value, one with maybe exposure if you have a big audience, or if you're just starting out and you can create cool content, it's through cool content. Because remember, for a lot of these brands, in order for their product, whether that is a shampoo or it's a pair of shoes, for them to get content, they need to hire a photographer, hire a model, hire a stylist, whether it's a food stylist or a clothing stylist. They then need to hire a location or scout a location. All this takes time and money. They then need to shoot the content using the photographer. They then need to go and hire someone to do post-production, whether that's for video or for image. Then they also have to hire, maybe a creative agency who's putting all of this together, only to get the piece of content itself. So there's like 7 more people involved, when you as an influencer could just simply say to them, hey, look, I have a camera, I have a photographer, or I can shoot content, I shoot it myself. Have a look at my stuff. I think that we could create some really amazing content together, and all I want is, and then you ask whatever it is that you're wanting for. Also, a good point is, if it's a brand that you really want to work with, and this would be the reason why you would be contacting them, is maybe do 1 or 2 posts for free, or 1 or 2 pieces of content for free, as a way to kind of like get your foot in the door. And then once they can see the value that you're bringing to them, then you can say, hey, look, I've done these 2 free posts. My audience are absolutely loving it. I would love to work again in the future, or do more content together, or work again in the future together, or something along those lines. My rates are whatever your rate is per post or per Instagram story, or whatever the platform is that you're leveraging to do that. And so I think that metaphorically eating shit in the beginning to get your foot in the door is always a good idea, or a good stepping stone to get to the point that you're actually working for money and for a brand that you like. So I hope that added some value in some way. I see that we're about to clock onto about 18 minutes here for this pod session. It's kind of a niche topic. I think I've covered a fair amount of it. If you have any further questions about working with brands at all, just comment your questions down below on whatever platform you're listening to or watching this on, and then I personally will come and answer those questions. And then also another point I'll put it in here, I do have a daily series that goes live on YouTube and on Facebook called Matt Ross Daily, and in those episodes I choose one question that I find online from you guys, whether that's through Instagram stories, Instagram posts, Facebook comments, YouTube comments, tweets, whatever it happens to be, and I'll answer one question in the daily vlog every single day. So if you ever have any questions related to anything, be sure to just comment them, and I will be selecting one of these and answering and giving you credit for that in the daily vlogs. Guys, I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch, just consume this overall. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. Follow, I think you can do on some of these audio-based platforms. And then also, if you have any friends, family members, somebody who this would add value to by hearing, please just share it with them. I say that not for myself. I mean, this podcast is so fucking small that it's not really going to benefit me at all. Maybe in a micro, but like, I think that when I do these, I try to add value. And so if you do think it would add value to someone, that to me is a lot more important. So even if you don't like or follow, just please share it with someone that it could add value to. You never know who could help. And yeah, just a big thank you for watching or listening to this next pod session as a greater part of In Your Ears with Matt Ross. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.